Hello on this Monday morning, guys. On this Monday morning. Well, it's been a week since Nolan Wells went missing. The first time I talked about Nolan Wells, right, I said his white friends failed him. Some people got angry because they thought I was accusing those boys of murder. I wasn't accusing those boys of murder. My argument was that you do not have to deliberately kill someone to fail them. Sometimes the failure is in decisions that you make when something starts going wrong, right? So, more information has come out since the last show I did, and instead of making me back away from what I said, it's made me look even harder at Nolan's final hours. So this Ben Crump dude says there's a video where Nolan can reportedly be heard arguing and demanding his phone back. What happened there? And I hate to play that music. Okay. I hate to play that music, right? But it was a part of that video. Now, I want you to remember that Nolan reportedly said because his phone later made it home without him, because his phone made it home without him. Other people said his keys reportedly made it home without him too, and were told that it was at someone's house. The people Nolan went out with returned home. Nolan didn't return home. We also have to ask questions about whether Nolan actually chose to stay behind on that island. The original explanation was that Nolan planned to catch another ride, but the family's attorney had raised concerns about conflicting accounts of what Nolan intended to do that night. Now, another person is claiming Nolan may have made it back to land and attended a party. That claim has not been publicly confirmed or denied, and I'm not presenting it as fact. There are also claims involving a gathering, another pool party, and a possible fight. Okay. Another possible fight. Hold on, let me show you this video. What the hell is going on?
One white fellow in America who has proved that he means right. Let's say we got another one. White people have died in demonstrations for black people. Now, here's the position I'm in. Here's 10,000 whites coming to kill me. And in those 10,000, let's say here's 10,000 rattlesnakes coming to bite me. And in those 10,000, there was 1,000 that didn't mean no harm. And I knew there was a good 1,000 snakes out there, but they all look alike. Now, what should I do? Should I keep the door open and let the 10,000 in, hoping that the 1,000 will unite and save me and one bite or kill me? Or should I just be safe and shut the door? So we have white people say, I mean right. I have a black husband. Oh, my children are black. I love everybody. I really believe you. But I'm sorry, man, there's 10 more thousand behind you that don't feel that way. I'm just sorry, but what am I going to do?
Right? If that person personally saw Nolan back on the island, the person who said he made it to this party, investigators need to establish whether that claim is true or not. Find the original pictures and videotapes and talk to the people who were there and determine whether he made it back or he didn't make it back. I'm skeptical because of this. Why? Because all of those people that were shown to be in that pool, let me show you a picture. All those people that were shown to be in the pool, Nolan was supposed to be behind. This is Nolan, I'm assuming, in the background. Okay. Nolan was supposed to be in behind. Okay. Let me stop right there. So if Nolan was supposed to be behind them in this pool party, and this pool party took place that night, how do you get all of these people to keep their mouth shut if something happened to Nolan? If something happened after that picture, how do you get all these people to be quiet and not say nothing? Is that at all possible? Okay. I don't know. Is it possible? Okay. When you talk to the people who were there, you have to determine whether he had his last confirmed location. He didn't have his phone, so you couldn't do it that way. Because whether Nolan stayed on Horns Island or made it back to land changes the timeline. But it don't change the question I asked in my first show. Nolan went out with people that he trusted. At some point during the night, something went terribly wrong. We don't know what went wrong, but something went terribly wrong. Nolan became separated from the people he was with, and he never made it home. That is why I am still talking about his friends. I'm not asking whether they planned to hurt Nolan. I'm not asking what they did when the night stopped being fun and Nolan needed somebody to make sure he was safe. The first time I talked about Nolan Wells, I said his friends failed him. His white friends failed him. With the new information coming out, I'm not backing away from that question. I want to know how they failed him. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I want to start with Nolan's phone because the reported argument changes the way I look at his friends leaving without him. According to Ben Crump, Nolan can reportedly be heard on video demanding, "Give me my freaking phone." That sounds like Nolan believes somebody else had possession of his phone and he wanted his phone back, right? Now think about what happened afterwards. Nolan's phone reportedly returned with his friends, but Nolan did not. If Nolan willingly chose to stay behind, I need to understand why the phone he had reportedly demanded back left without him. I need to know how an 18-year-old who is perpetually online, because y'all know they live online, they do all their socializing online, they do their talking, they do everything on their phone. How is it that an 18-year-old, 19-year-old don't have their phone on them? How does that happen without their phone, without it being suspicious in any way? He is 18 years old. You know, if you have an 18-year-old kid in your house, you know they do not go nowhere without the phone. The minute that his friends was about to leave with the phone, leave on their boat, Nolan probably would have hollered out, give me my phone. Give me my phone. Okay. Ain't no way he would have left without his phone. So my question is this. The mother said that they pinged his phone and his phone pinged at one of those boys' house. The boy came to the door because the mother sent her friend to go get his phone from one of those boys' houses. The friend said the boy told them he didn't know where the phone was. But according to a girl who had been to the house, she said Nolan's phone was on top of somebody's Xbox in the living room, in the front room, in the house. And when the young boy went to go retrieve it from the spot where the girl said it was there. So why is it that they good friends with Nolan, good friends of Nolan, has his phone, ain't thought nothing about calling nobody? The mother did say three people reached out to her. 3 of his friends reached out to her. Okay. She didn't say whether those were the 3 friends in the picture. She didn't say anything about who those 3 friends were that reached out to her. All she said was when they went looking for Nolan's phone, his phone or his key, I can't remember which one, keys or his phone. It might have been the phone. The phone was at this young man's house, and he apparently never contacted the parents telling them about the fact that they had Nolan's phone. He had Nolan's phone. Who had it? Who had the phone when Nolan was arguing about his phone? Did Nolan ever get it back, get his phone back? If he did, how did somebody else end up with leaving with his phone? If he didn't get it back, why would his friends leave Nolan around open water without the easiest way for him to call help? These are his friends now, right? Those questions go directly to what I meant when I said his friends may have failed him. A phone is not just something an 18-year-old uses for TikTok. Nolan could have called his parents. He could have called the police. He could have called 911. He could have contacted the Coast Guard or reached somebody who could come and get him. If his friends knew Nolan didn't have his phone when they left, I have a problem with that. I don't care whether they were angry with him or not. I don't care whether Nolan was being difficult or not. I don't care whether everybody was tired and ready to go home. You do not leave your friend around open water without a phone and simply assume he will figure it out. At the very least, you can make sure he has another ride. You see the boat, you speak to the person taking him. You confirm that your friend has a safe way home before you leave. Maybe Nolan's friends did all that. Maybe they did. If they did, the investigation should establish that, right? But we thought Nolan had another ride, quote unquote. It's not the same as making sure Nolan got home. The difference matters because these were not strangers who happened to see Nolan on the island. These were his friends. They knew whether Nolan was upset or not. They knew about the argument. They knew who had his phone. And they knew whether Nolan had a safe way to communicate after they left. This is why I keep using the word failed. If you leave your friend behind after an argument, knowing he don't have his phone and never personally confirming that he had a safe way home, I'm going to question the decision that you made. That does not automatically make you a murderer. It doesn't make you a murderer at all. But friendship should have required more than an assumption. Before that boat left, without Nolan, somebody should have been able to say with certainty that Nolan was going to be safe. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I want to know who did. This brings me to the explanation that Nolan chose to stay behind and catch another ride. I need to know exactly where that information came from. Did Nolan personally tell his friends he was staying, or did he reach that conclusion after the argument? Did somebody actually hear Nolan arrange another ride? More importantly, did anybody see him safely leave with that other person? Because his body was found a day later. They searched the island that first day looking for him. They searched the island. I'm sure they went from rooted to the tooth. They went from one end of the island to the next. I'm sure they all went from one end to the next. Where was he at on the first day that they searched for him? Where was he at? Where was his body? He was floating out to sea. They didn't see him floating out to sea. They didn't see him floating in the water. His body was not bloated as though he had drowned. According to reports, his body didn't look like he drowned. Why did the parents have to come and identify him? Why did it take them hours to identify him if he looked like Nolan normally looked like? Had he been beaten up? Was his face changed? he hadn't been in the water for critters and all those kind of people, that things to have affected him like that. I don't think. Did Nolan, because there's a difference between Nolan choosing to stay and a group of angry young men leaving him there. The difference is important now that we know there was reportedly a fight or tension over Nolan's phone. An argument can change the entire mood of the night. People get angry, say things they don't mean, and make decisions they would normally not make. Somebody says, "Fine, stay here then." And everybody leaves believing the problem will work itself out. Did y'all leave Nolan on that island by himself without his phone to teach him a lesson? Yeah, let's get up out of here. We're going to leave his ass on the island. And then they got his keys and his phone. That could have happened. They could not even have touched him. Left him on the island. He tried to swim and he drowned. Could have been any number of things. You don't have to touch a person in order for you to be responsible for them dying. Stay there. Maybe they said that. This time Nolan died because you said stay there. That is why I want to know what Nolan's friends personally did before they left. Did they see Nolan get another ride? Did they speak to the person who was supposed to take him home? Did they know where Nolan was going? Or did they get on the boat and assume an 18-year-old young man who reportedly just been involved in the argument would figure it out? If Nolan clearly told them he wanted to stay and they confirmed he had a safe ride, that matters. I can accept facts that don't support my opinion. But if Nolan was left after the argument and nobody made sure he had a way home, then I'm right back where I started. His friends failed him. Not because they could predict Nolan would die, but because friendship should have required them to do more than assume he would be all right. This is the part some people keep trying to skip over. They want to start with Nolan being an adult and end with Nolan being responsible for himself. Yes, Nolan was 18. He was a legal adult. He was also out with his friends, people he trusted. When you go out together, especially around boats, alcohol, open water, you look out for each other. That's just the golden rule. Being legally grown does not mean everybody gets to stop caring when something goes wrong. Get mad at your friend, argue with your friend, tell him he ruined the night, but make sure he gets his ass home. Then cuss his ass out on dry land. Nolan never got a tomorrow. So when I hear that Nolan supposedly chose to stay behind, I need more than the phrase he chose to stay. I need more than that from y'all. I need to know what his friends knew when they left him. Because if they knew Nolan was upset, knew there had been an argument, knew his phone was leaving without him, and still did not confirm that he had a safe way home, then the problem is no longer whether they intended for something to happen. The problem is what they were willing to risk happening to their friend. And that is exactly what I meant when I said that his friends failed him. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. Now we get to the new claim that could change the entire direction of Nolan's final moments. A person is claiming Nolan made it back that night, made it back to land. There are also claims that he may have been at a gathering and that he got into a fight, maybe with his friends. They didn't say. They did say, but I'm not going to repeat those allegations here. Okay, I'm going to be careful here because I can't confirm those claims. I can't look at a blurry picture and tell you the person in the pool is Nolan way over there. And I'm not going to turn somebody into Nolan because it makes the story more interesting. But if a person is claiming they personally saw Nolan back on land, investigators need to find out whether that person is telling the truth or not. If Nolan made it back, then his story did not end with his friends leaving him on Horn Island. That means something happened afterwards. Where did Nolan go? Who was with him? Was there actually a gathering? Was there actually a fight? Most importantly, who saw Nolan last? Ain't nobody came forward and said nothing about who saw him last. Why ain't nobody came forward and said, well, we was pulling away from the island and he didn't get on the boat. We all pulled away and he didn't get on the boat. I think I saw him last. We don't know why he didn't get on the boat with us, blah, blah, blah. All of y'all went home. That boy didn't go home. He was found on the island dead. How was he the only one on that island dead? Those questions matter to my original argument because making it back to land would not automatically mean Nolan was safe. If Nolan had already argued with his friends earlier in the night, I want to know whether that tension continued. If another confrontation happened, I want to know who was there and what his friends did. This person got on the internet a couple of days ago and said, this picture that you see right here is a picture of Nolan and all of them at a party at 1 o'clock in the morning after he was supposed to have been left on the island. This is what an internet person said. And the internet person said that they got into a fight and Nolan was throwing up blood. They whooped his ass and he was throwing up blood. What happened? If Nolan had already argued with his friends that night, I want to know whether they got into another altercation after they left the island. If he left the island, if another confrontation happened, I want to know who was there and what his friend, what other friends, what other people that were there did or said. Did they walk away from him again? Did they assume Nolan would calm down? Did everybody go home thinking whatever happened was over? I don't know. That is why the claim needs to be checked. This person who presented this photo, who said that Nolan, all of them made it home and they had a fight at this party. Find the original picture or video, establish why ain't none of these people got any photos? Why would y'all turn off y'all social media? Why would y'all need to turn y'all social media off? And everybody got a lawyer. We need to find the original picture or the original video, establish when it was taken and where it was taken, talk to people who were actually there. Young people document almost everything. You young motherfuckers are always online. Y'all fucking videotape pissing or taking a shit. So I know there's people who got photos of y'all if he got left on the island. I know somebody was taking a photo of them leaving him on the island. If there was a gathering, there may be pictures, videos, texts. They erased texts on his phone. Why would y'all need to erase text on Nolan's phone? Why would y'all need to erase anything on his phone? Use the group chats, everybody group chats. Every person that has known Nolan for the past 5 years, I'd run all their phones. Use them, because if Nolan was at that party that night, somebody knows what condition he was in. Somebody knows whether he was angry, whether he was injured, whether there was a confrontation, and somebody knows how Nolan left. This is where friendships matter. If Nolan made it back to the land and was still upset, still arguing, or involved in another confrontation, did anybody who called themselves his friend stop long enough to make sure he was okay? And I'm not asking whether they knew Nolan was going to die. That ain't what I'm saying. I am asking whether anybody recognized that night had already gone wrong and decided Nolan should not be left alone. There comes a point when you stop saying he'll be all right. There comes a point when you stop assuming your friend will figure it out. There comes a point when you look at your friend and say, I have to protect him somehow, some way. You look at everything that has already happened and realize somebody needs to stay with him. Maybe Nolan's friends never had the opportunity because maybe this Mainland story is not true. If the evidence proves Nolan never made it back, then we follow the facts where they lead. I got 1,000,001 questions if he got left on that fucking island. How did he get left on that island by himself? How? And why would you, as friends, go off and not come back and make sure to go get him? No, man, Nolan left his phone on the boat. I'm finna go back to the island and see. I'm finna go back to the island and get Nolan. That's what I'm finna do. Y'all either gonna come with me as his boys or y'all ain't coming. Why didn't some of y'all say that? Why didn't one of y'all say that? Y'all his boys. Once, when they left without him, somebody should have said, let's go back. Instantly. And again, when Nolan was still clearly having a bad night and nobody made sure he got home, that is why this new claim matters. It does not prove murder. It may prove nothing at all. But if Nolan Wells made it back to the mainland, I want to know who saw him, who was with him, and whether Nolan still had friends when he needed them the most. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe button. I be dropping content. I can't get 20 people to give me a like or a share. This is where I need people to understand the difference between killing somebody and failing somebody. I never said Nolan's friends planned his death. I never said that. My concern has always been about the decisions they made when the night started to go wrong. If Nolan was arguing over his phone, the night was already changing. If there was confusion about how Nolan was getting home, somebody needed to slow the fuck down and figure it out. If Nolan was angry or upset, leaving should not have been the easiest solution that y'all put forward. That is what failure can look like. It can look like assuming your friend has another ride without confirming it. It can look like leaving because everybody is tired of arguing. It can look like believing an 18-year-old boy will figure it out because dealing with him has become inconvenient. None of those decisions require you to hate the person. Sometimes you can genuinely love somebody and still fail them because in one important moment, you put your frustration ahead of their safety. That is the part of Nolan's story I cannot get past. His friends knew more about his condition that night than Nolan's family did. They knew whether he had been drinking. They knew whether he was doing drugs. They knew whether he was angry. They knew whether the phone argument was serious. They knew whether the group had turned against him or whether this was a small disagreement that got blown out of proportion. They were there. So when the decision was made to leave that boy, what did they know? Because I keep hearing people say Nolan was an adult. I understand that. But if I go out with my friends and I'm drunk and angry, confused, or making a terrible decision, I expect somebody who loves me to care more about getting me home than winning a fucking argument. Get mad at me tomorrow. Cuss me out tomorrow. Tell me off tomorrow. Tell me I ruined everybody's night. But make sure I live long enough for you to do it. That is what I mean by friendship. That is what I mean by his friends failed him. And maybe that sounds like too much responsibility for some people. Maybe y'all don't understand that. It does not sound like too much to me. If we came together, me, you, and our boys, I am looking for you before I fucking leave. If you give a damn about me, you're looking for me before you leave. If we're around open water, I'm making sure you have a safe way home. If you do not have your phone, I am not comfortable leaving you until I know you can contact somebody. I may be mad as hell at you, but my anger does not erase the fact that you are my friend. That is why I use the word failed, because somebody somewhere in Noah's final hours of his life, the people who knew him lost track of that boy. Maybe they thought he was safe. Maybe they thought somebody else had him. Maybe they believed Nolan had made his own choice and they were done arguing. But Nolan died. And once your friend is dead, I thought he would be okay, because a much harder sentence, that's a harder thing to live with. I'm not saying his friends were required to predict the future. I am saying they were required to care about me, care about him enough to prevent what was happening in front of them. There was reportedly an argument. There was a question about Nolan's ride. His phone left without him. Nolan became separated from the group. At some point, somebody should have stopped and said, "Where's Nolan? And are we sure he's going to be safe? Maybe we should go back for him." Not now. One of y'all said nothing. It's three of y'all in that damn picture. I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know when. But it's three of y'all in that fucking picture with Nolan. Not one of y'all said, "I think we need to go back. I think we need to go get Nolan. Dump his ass on the lawn in front of his house, but I think we need to go get Nolan." Okay. That's the moment I'm looking for. Did anybody ask? Did anybody check? Did anybody turn around? Did anybody think? Because if everybody assumed Nolan was somebody else's responsibility, then Nolan ended up being nobody's responsibility. And the 18-year-old boy died. That is what I meant when I said his friends failed him. I was never talking about murder. I never said anything about murder. I was talking about whether Nolan's life may have depended on somebody giving a fuck about caring to check on him, and his friends didn't check on him. Now I want to come back to the part of my original rant that made some people the angriest. I said his white friends failed him. People wanted to know why I had to mention race. Because black people understand a particular fear that is difficult to explain to people who have never had to think about it. The fear is not always that your white friends secretly hate you. Sometimes that fear is finding out at the worst possible moment that they do not feel the same responsibility for you that you feel for each other. Nolan looked comfortable with these boys. I saw the pictures. He looked comfortable as hell with these people. He went out with them. He trusted them enough to get on a boat with them and spend a day with them. I had no reason to believe Nolan thought he was surrounded by his enemies. That is what makes this conversation very difficult. You can genuinely like a black person and still underestimate the danger they are in. You can call him your boy and still get tired of dealing with him when an argument starts. You can include him when everybody is having fun and still leave him behind when the night becomes complicated. That is the fear black people are talking about. Not whether you will smile with us. We know you'll smile with us. The question is what happens when protecting us becomes inconvenient. When other friends are ready to leave, are you the one who says, "We ain't going without Noah. We ain't doing that"? Are you that friend? When Nolan don't have his phone, are you the one who says, hold on, I need to give Nolan his phone"? When somebody says Nolan has another ride, are you the one who asks, who is taking him? Who has Nolan? Are you that friend? That is where friendship is proven. And I know somebody is going to say, I would be asking these same questions if Nolan's friends were, they're going to ask, would I be asking the same questions if Nolan's friends were black? Yes, I would. But I would not pretend the racial part of this conversation does not exist simply because acknowledging it makes some white people uncomfortable. Black parents have warned their children about this for generations. Know who you are with. Keep your phone. Have your own way home. Do not get so comfortable that you stop paying attention to what is happening around you. Those warnings were never simply white people are going to kill you. That's not what we heard growing up. The warning was that you may find out too late that the people you thought saw you as family do not protect you the same urgent way that they protect each other. That is what I am looking at in Nolan's case. His white friends knew whether there had been an argument. They knew who had his phone. They knew why Nolan was separated from the group. They knew what condition Nolan was in when they last saw him. The rest of us learned pieces of this story after Nolan was dead. They lived through it in real time. They knew it as it was happening. So when people tell black folk we are wrong for looking at Nolan's friends, I reject that. Who else should we be looking at? They were there. They called him their friend. He was your boy. They left that day knowing things Nolan's mother and father did not know. And Nolan didn't come home. And I am not saying their race makes them guilty of a crime. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying race is part of why this story touches a nerve with so many black people. We have heard this story in different forms before. A black person is welcomed into a white group. Everybody says race don't matter. Everybody is family. Then something goes wrong, and the black family is left trying to figure out why nobody protected their child. That is the fear, and the new information has not made that fear dissipate. It has made me question their friendship even more. Because if Nolan was demanding his phone back, somebody knew there was tension. If Nolan was left behind, somebody knew the group was leaving without him. If there was another ride, somebody should know who was supposed to provide that ride. And if Nolan made it back to land, somebody knows who was around him when he got back to land. His friends had information. Now Nolan's family deserves the truth, because I keep coming back to the same uncomfortable fucking truth. And question, was Nolan really one of the boys when being one of the boys required somebody to stand up for him? That is why I said his white friends failed him. And I still have not seen anything that makes me take those words back. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. And this is where the people who were with Nolan had a responsibility that Nolan no longer has the ability to carry. They can tell their side. Nolan can't. Nolan cannot tell us whether he actually wanted to stay behind. He cannot explain why he was reportedly demanding his phone back or what happened during an argument. If Nolan made it back to land, he cannot tell us whether he went where he went next or whether another confrontation took place. The people who were there can. That is why complete honesty matters. Not a cleaned up version of the night. Not the version that makes everybody look responsible. Nolan's family deserves to know what actually happened, even if the truth makes somebody look selfish, careless, angry, or scared. If Nolan was drunk, say that. If he was angry, say that. If he was high, say that. If Nolan was being difficult, say that. I do not need Nolan turned into a perfect 18-year-old to care about what happened to that boy. But the same rule applies to his friends. If somebody got angry with Nolan, say it. If somebody had his phone, explain why. If the group left because everybody was tired of arguing, tell the truth about that too. If somebody said, forget his ass, leave his ass over there, he'll figure it out, Nolan's family deserves to know that too. I understand that young people get scared when something terrible happens. I get all of that. They start thinking about the police. They start thinking about their parents, their school, their job, their future, and whether somebody is going to blame them or not. I understand the instinct to protect your future, but Nolan had a future too. That's the part I need his friends to understand, to remember. Nolan had plans. Nolan had a family waiting for him. Nolan expected to wake up the next morning and continue his life. He did not get to do that. So I'm less concerned about protecting somebody from embarrassment than I am about Nolan's parents spending the rest of their lives wondering what the fuck their final days of their son's life was like. Final hours of their son's life was like. One honest detail could matter. One text message could establish a timeline. One original video could establish a connection or location. One person admitting that the argument was more serious than initially described could explain why Nolan became separated from the group. That does not automatically mean a crime occurred. It means the truth matters more than protecting the image of the people who survived. And if these boys were really Nolan's friends, this is their opportunity to prove it. Prove it, motherfucker, prove it. Tell his family everything, even the ugly parts, even the parts that make Nolan look bad, even the parts that make you look worse. Because the friendship should not end simply because your friend is no longer here to hear the truth. Maybe the complete timeline clears everybody. Maybe the investigators established that Nolan's friends genuinely believed he had a safe ride and had no responsibility, no reasonable way of knowing he was in danger. If that is what the facts bear out, I'll say it. But the facts have to come first. Nolan cannot correct anybody's version of that night. He can't say that's not what happened. He can't say somebody left without me. He can't explain what he meant or what he planned to do next. His friends can. So if you called Nolan your fucking friend, give his family the one thing Nolan can no longer give himself: the complete truth, complete honesty. Because Nolan Wells can't tell us what happened to him. The people who were with him still can. Y'all can hit the like and share and subscribe button, please, and thank you. So I'll end with this. The first time I talked about Nolan Wells, I said his white friends failed him. I knew people would be angry about those words. I get it. But I said them because I could not understand how Nolan left with people he trusted and became the one person who did not come home. Now we know there are more questions about his final hours. There was reportedly an argument over Noah's phone. His phone and keys reportedly returned without him. There are conflicting accounts about whether Nolan actually chose to stay, and now there's an unconfirmed claim that he may have made it back to land and they went to the party in this film, in this video or picture. None of that proves Nolan was murdered. Nothing. Nobody said anything about Nolan being murdered. I never did. I never said that. What it does is make me question the decisions made about the people who said they loved him, or made about the people who said they were his friend. Because friendship is easy when everybody's smiling for the fucking cameras and having a good time. The meaning of that friendship is tested when somebody is angry, difficult, drunk, sick, creating a problem nobody wants to deal with. That is when your friend needs you the most. Maybe Nolan ruined the night. Maybe he argued. Maybe he made bad decisions. He was 18 years old, of course. But Nolan deserved to live long enough to learn from whatever mistakes he made that night. Somebody should have cared more about getting Nolan home than getting away with an argument. Somebody should have made sure he had his phone. Somebody should have confirmed his ride. Somebody should have known where their friend was before everybody moved on with their night and went to bed. If Nolan actually made it back to land, somebody should be able to tell his family what happened next. So I'm not taking back what I said. I'm not changing the title of my show to make people more comfortable. I said his white friends failed him. The new information has not convinced me I was wrong. It's made me question how many opportunities there may have been for somebody to stop and turn around and check and simply say, we're not leaving Nolan behind. Maybe the investigation will answer all those questions. Maybe the complete timeline will show that his friends did everything they reasonably could. The sheriff is out here saying we don't see any reason to call it foul play. How the fuck an 18-year-old kid ends up dead if you don't see any kind of foul play? I see people trying to close ranks so they won't go to jail. If that was a picture of all black folk and one white dude that didn't come home that night, all you Negroes would be in handcuffs. And you still be in jail trying to explain yourself. This is white privilege right here. If that was black folk and it was one white dude and he didn't make it home, all those Negroes would be in handcuffs, still in jail. Until I find out more, I'm keep coming back to the same thing. Nolan Wells had friends when the night began. He had friends when everybody was smiling. Everybody was having a good time. They was going out to the island. He had friends when everybody was having a damn good time. What I want to know is whether Nolan had friends when being his friend became difficult. Because that is where that friendship should have been tested, where that friendship should have mattered. And Nolan can't tell us whether somebody stood up for him that night or not. But his friends can. Let's see how many friends he really, really had. Let's see how many friends he really, really had from those people in those pictures. Let's see. I'm gonna read comments in the section. Good morning, you. I'm black, but I support white people. I'm happy for you. Okay. They killed a man and you still blame it on white people. Shut your ass up. Making this all about race just goes to show you how bad our society. I don't think it was all about race. I don't think I mentioned race until after we got into the conversation. Now that makes you sound dumb. Why don't black keep this same energy when children get shot in the hood? Because people getting shot in the hood is not friends shooting friends in the hood, retard. This is about friends protecting their friends. Something happening with friends. Your friend didn't protect you. Has not the same thing to do with people getting killed in the hood. I wish you retards would figure that out. Stop saying that. It's not the same thing. Black baby's an adult. Yeah, seriously doubt this photo took place. Who knows? I don't know when, I don't know why or when that picture was taken. Okay. I don't know why. Who it could have been. It was circulating on the internet. Okay. Circulating on the internet. Who knows? Okay. But we need to know something. Okay. Supreme over. So God. Okay. Nolan drowned. They didn't say his body was like it drowned. It wasn't. They said it wasn't like that. So we don't know. We can't say that. But see, here's the thing. Even if he stayed on the island, where did the rest of the people go? Did they forget? Did he disappear? And did he fall into the water and everybody thought he was gone and then they just left him out there? How did he get left out there? I don't understand what you mean. I mean, if people thought he was, I mean, how did he get left out there by himself? The last person that was driving away on the boat, they didn't see Nolan standing on the island nowhere. Nolan went out to the weeds somewhere where they couldn't find him. I don't understand what you mean. Why would you leave a person out there in the weeds? Even if he was to hook up with somebody, just a regular random stranger wouldn't have left him sitting out there by himself. Okay. Was he friend? I don't know who was out there with him. He wasn't with his friends. Who knows? But his friends should have been looking out for him. That's my whole point. His friends should have been looking out for him. Why did his parents have to go look for his phone and his phone was at one of those boys' house? And they didn't take it over to his family. Why didn't they go over there and take the phone and the keys over to his family? Why didn't they do that? Why did they have it hidden in the house somewhere? We don't know whether there were black people there or not. We're looking at the pictures, Marguerite. We're looking at the pictures. He had a group of white friends who he went over there on the island with. We're talking about the people he went on the island with. We're not talking about anybody else, but the people he went on the island with. Okay. I'm saying those three people in the picture failed him. That's what we're saying. That's wild. Of course she is. White people wasn't. So he was the only. Nobody said anything about that. What we said was he had his friends. He went with his friends. Okay. Y'all goofy. Some of y'all don't have critical thinking skills. I deliberately said he went with his friend. His friend. It is not any random black person to take care of another random black person. He went with his friends. It was for his friends to take care of him. It was for his friends to look out for him. His friends were supposed to look out for him. Not some random stranger just because there was other black people. All us black people don't know each other. Okay. It doesn't matter. It matters that his friends were there. That's what it matters. It matters that he had friends, people he called his friends. Those three white guys in the boat that he went over there on the boat with, those were his friends. It matters that they were there and they just happened to be white. Okay. We're not talking about if there was any other black people there. He went with his friends. He went to the island with his friends. Okay. I'm talking about friendship. I'm not talking about his race. Just goofy. If you like my content or you like my take on this situation, please and thank you. I'd appreciate you putting a like, share, and subscribe. Please comment in the comment section. If you have any ideas or questions that I did not come up with or I did not express, or maybe you had a different theory, please put it in the chat. I appreciate it, because we trying to keep up on this story and find out exactly what went wrong with this young man and what went wrong with this trip, this fun trip that he was supposed to do it. Who knows what happened? You don't have to touch a person. You don't have to touch a person, beat a person, neglect. You don't have to do anything in order to be responsible for a person's death. You could see somebody drowning and not save them. That would make you responsible. Not criminally responsible, but that still would make you responsible. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying they killed him. I'm saying they could have just saw him drowning and didn't save him. Just anything could have happened. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And I will be back with more content. Maybe later on today or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. More than likely later on this evening. Who knows? There might be some more interesting things to say, to talk about. And I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you. It's early Monday morning. Monday morning.